Well, I would say all all beings, I mean, including ourselves, certainly have access to the same general source of knowledge in creation. And these higher beings, these, spirit beings, be they, non-physical or extraterrestrial like Bashar, which he does have a physicality, they're not, in that sense, exactly the same kind of being, but they have the ability, based on where they're at in their evolution, they have the ability to tap more freely, more consciously into higher sources of knowledge. And we have that ability too, but we're only really just remembering that and relearning that. But in general, we all have the capacity to access universal knowledge, since we're all a part of creation anyway, and they just have more facility at doing that.
Yeah, is that because as our human focus, we kind of filter everything more so than from where they're at?
Generally speaking, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Has Bashar ever talked about like a race of beings that have maybe controlled the planet Earth? I mean,
he has talked about various interactions that have happened throughout our history and prehistory with other extraterrestrial beings. Way back when, he has talked about the idea that some genetic alteration was undertaken in the past. He doesn't usually view it as an issue of control because he sees everyone as capable of being self-empowered. But he does recognize that there are connections, genetic connections, energetic connections between us and other species that we've interacted with throughout our history and our prehistory.
So it's not so much that we're controlled by them, but
certainly not at this point. Even if we ever were in the past, from Bashar's perspective, that's something that has long since gone away.
Okay. So let me just get this out of the way right away, because a lot of people asked it, about this, the New World Order and all of this stuff. Has he made mention of anything like that?
He's had long discussions with people I know who've asked these kinds of questions with him, and while now and then certainly he has acknowledged that there are certainly people on this planet who are of, negative thought patterns, fearful thought patterns, who certainly are interested in control and domination. At the same time, he stresses very strongly that it doesn't really serve us to focus on that, because from his perspective, it's whatever vibration, whatever frequency you create, whatever belief system structure you create is what determines the kind of reality that you experience, regardless of who else might have another agenda. So he's really working to try and get us to refocus our energy and not succumb into the whole idea of fear and control, because he says if we do, then all we're doing is allowing those that wish to dominate to have an effect on us and in our lives. Whereas if we stay in the higher frequencies and stay self-empowered, then really it's up to us to determine what kind of realities we prefer to experience. And the people that are not of that frequency then really don't have the same kind of effect upon us. So his entire approach is not so much to get too deeply into discussion about those things, but to take us in another direction with respect to our relationship to those things, so that we are changing our world in the way that we prefer to, and letting people that want to sort of stay in the old fearful paradigm sort of fall away by the wayside over time.
Right. They really don't even become part of your experience because you're not focused on it.
Eventually, correct.
Okay. How do you stay happy? How do you stay in a high vibration? How do you keep yourself positive?
This is one of the strongest things that Bashar talks about, and it all centers from his point of view and their philosophy around the whole concept of following your excitement and acting on your joy, acting on your passion. Now, I know that, follow your bliss, act on your passion, have been catchphrases of the metaphysical world for quite some time, but it's rarely explained as to exactly why that's so important. And again, that's one of the things that I kind of really appreciate about Bashar, is his ability to really explain the mechanics of what these phrases are all about. So when Bashar is talking about the idea of following your passion and acting on your bliss and your joy and acting on your excitement, why that's so important is he's actually saying that literally that sensation, that sensation of excitement, that energy that we feel as passion and love and joy, is actually the body's physical translation of the vibratory energy that represents our true natural core selves. So any time that we're willing at any given moment to continue to choose the things in our lives that excite us the most and act on them to the best of our ability, that's when we're staying most in alignment with our true selves and allow synchronicity to expand our joy, expand opportunities, bring us opportunities through attraction for more excitement. As long as we continue to be willing to act on the things that excite us the most, it will support us in the ways we need to be supported and allow us to maintain that vibration of joy and happiness.
When you say true self, are you saying our higher self, that aspect of us that is the one energy?
I'm saying that aspect of us that is the original reflection of creation, what we were created to be, that source vibration that we're all a part of.
Okay.
And that in our reality, the experience of joy and passion and love is the closest expression we have of maintaining our true alignment to that energy.
Okay.
And so acting on things that contain that energy, that give us excitement, that give us joy and allow us to express our creativity, are the things that keep us in that state. And thus, when we're in that state, the things that can then be attracted into our lives can be of that state. One of the things that Bashar often says is you can't really experience a vibration that you don't allow yourself to operate on. You can't perceive something you're not the vibration of. So if you don't actually allow yourself to exist in that state, that higher state, the things that could actually reflect your happiness remain invisible to us. So we actually have to be in that state first in order to attract those circumstances and those situations and opportunities that would then reflect the joy and the happiness we are choosing to stay in the state of. To him, it's all just the idea of what you put out is what you get back.
I've heard it said a lot that reality is just an illusion.
In a sense, yes, and he says that as well. What he does say is that the experience of physical reality is what's real. The experiences we have are real, but the realities themselves are just reflections. They're just illusions. They're just symbols of what's going on within our consciousness. And they're there to function as mirrors, to give us an opportunity to see by reflection whether or not we are in the state of being we prefer to be in, so that if we see something amiss in that reflection, we can change within ourselves. He often actually gives a very literal analogy that physical reality is literally like a mirror. And he says if you see your reflection in the mirror frowning, you don't go over to the mirror and try to change the expression on the face in the reflection. The only way to make the reflection smile is for you to smile first. And then the mirror has no choice but to reflect that back to you.
Mm.
So they're viewing the way we typically look at physical reality is as if we're trying to manipulate the reflection, and that doesn't work. He says you have to make the change within yourself, then the world around you as a mirror will reflect that to you.
Nicholas writes in and says, if everything is one thing, then who is doing the one thing? Is God the doer, or are we doing for God?
This is sort of the paradoxical conundrum that we find ourselves in a lot of time, is asking these kinds of questions in a this or that sort of style. One of the things that Bashar has talked about often is that the approach really needs to be, in order to understand these things, not this or that, but understand that it's this and that. Anything that we can imagine on some level of existence has a reality to it, is part of creation. Thus, there is the one, the all, what we might call God, and there also are the individual aspects of that one. So, from Bashar's point of view, we are the individual aspects, and we're creating from our own perspective, but at the same time, all together in combination, we are also the one. So, to him, it's both. And you can approach it from both directions, and either direction is accurate, and either direction is true. It's all one thing, acting as many things. And it's many things together that are one thing.
Kevin asks, what wisdom can Bashar give us to help us see how we evolve past